and that is the driving consumer forces. And I think if you look at these driving consumer forces and you put them to work in your business, you're gonna increase your business, you're gonna make more money, you're gonna save more time, everything will be better. So here they are.
So everybody, you caught catching a little bit of back behind the scenes chit chat. I'm here with one of the smartest people that I know and has been very instrumental in the real estate industry, especially the tech space, Saul Klein, who is a legend. And we are going to be talking about some futuristic stuff that's actually happening now, but where are we going with this? What do we call it, Saul? Web 3.0?
Yeah, Web 3.0, pretty interesting. So you hear the term, people talk about it and you hear it, but I know most people, they're like thinking, what is that all about? What is Web 3.0? Why is that important? I heard the term blockchain. I heard the term Bitcoin. I heard the term Ethereum. I've heard these kinds of things, cryptocurrency. How does this all kind of fit together? How is it going to affect us in real estate? So I think the basic foundation is really helpful. And something else, if you have knowledge of this and you can talk to people about this and your clients might be interested in something like this and you can deliver some knowledge, remember, one way to build trust and confidence in a sales relationship is to demonstrate expertise. And so some of the stuff we're going to talk about is valuable. So Web 3.0, let's run back to Web 1.0. And really, there was no web, there was the internet. And the internet was created to be an emergency communication. It was a network. You know, Johnny Mo, it was a network of these different entities that kind of hooked together through, you know, a defense agency in the US government. And the purpose was to allow for communication in the event of nuclear holocaust with the Soviet Union. It's kind of a current, huh? So that was the reason the internet was created, a distributed communication. And so it wasn't until about 1997 that a fellow by the name of Tim Berners-Lee, who became Sir Tim Berners-Lee at the CERN, created the first browser. And so the browser gave people a tool to use this thing called the World Wide Web, which was something that was on top of the internet. So the first, what I call, you can call it Web 1.0, but it really is the first step. And that was where we did email, and we also had the World Wide Web, and we could do websites, and realtors started buying websites, and that was web, but you couldn't, it was like read only. You couldn't do anything unless you're a programmer, and it was very difficult to do things. And so these things were just billboards, right? And I'd say websites are billboards in the middle of nowhere. And so that was what we called at the end, of Web 1.0, or the first phase of the internet and the World Wide Web. And then the second phase was something you're very familiar with, and that is the engagement, what they call Web 2.0. That was built on a different technology stack. It allowed ease of engagement. And one of the reasons we're here today is that was all created. So you hear people talk about, well, what's Web 3.0, what's Web 2.0? That's when we got to the point where we could talk to one another online, and you could create groups and you could create communities online. I know, again, something you're really interested in. So Web 3.0. Now, so it's this, what makes it Web 3.0? And the answer is it's built on a different infrastructure. And so remember that Web 1.0, or the beginning of the internet, was created not for commerce. It was created for communication, distributed networks, which created a lot of problems when they put the commerce piece on top. And so it wasn't, for a while that they put the commerce, and that's why we have to change passwords, and there's all these security issues, because the underlying structure wasn't built for what it turned out to be.
Yeah, I like to say we went from being static to dynamic, and now what we're doing is heading to an immersive world.
Yes,
so
exactly.
We're going to be able to dive right in.
Yeah, we're changing the underlying platform, which will give more security, more privacy, more trackability. It's what they call immutable. It's a distributed database. And what we're really talking about is what people call blockchain. And why it's not important to know how it works, but it kind of is important to know that it's an underpinning of a new way that we're going to do business. And it's going to create all kinds of new and innovative products and services and it will be different. Because think about the internet today. How much, I mean, it started out, it was great, it was a conversation, but how much bad stuff takes place? How many scams take place? I can't tell you, I get all kinds of scam email. One I'm getting lately is we own a lot of domains, and I've been getting these things from people that go up to Voodoo Domains where we keep our domains, and they get offers, and we've sold a few off there, but now I'm getting offers for like $132,000, right? And so, and I get 3 or 4 every day, and it's a scam. And if I clicked on the link, I'd be in big trouble. So lots of this, I know people who've been scammed out of properties, or people where there's mortgage fraud, right? So how do you prevent that, or at least minimize it? And the answer we've been given is blockchain technology, distributed ledger. Don't need a centralized source. If everything's a centralized place, then see, you hack into it, you got everything. But if everything's spread out, it is just a little bit different dynamic. So Web 3.0, Web 3.0 is this capability.
And it's really nothing new in a sense, if you look at it as what disk arrays would accomplish back in, the late 90s, early 2000s, where you would have 5 disks plugged into a server. And if one failed, you'd be able to pull that one disk out, and the other 4 were able to calculate the missing equation, right? And when you plugged in the damaged one or the new one, all of a sudden it would all fix itself back up. And blockchain serves almost the same way, that there's a ledger, but there's algorithms that are happening or equations that are happening. So now all of a sudden it's distributed across all over the place. So if one miner goes down, the other ones can still compute the problem, right?
And so as you can see, it's more secure, right? It's harder to because there's so many places where the information is recorded.
Yeah. And it's absolutely amazing to watch. And some of the places that we're going to be able to go with the blockchain, and at the end result of what the blockchain is, the security and everything else like that you had mentioned, but it's going to be the fast access to information.
Well, and you know what else is going to be? Is your information is going to be marked to you. And so any information that you feed into, like as a real estate agent, if you put a listing, see, the real estate business is kind of backwards. The way that technology typically works is if you provide content, you get paid. The way it works in the real estate industry is you pay and you put in your content, and then companies make billions of dollars off of what you placed in. And wouldn't you like to have a system that actually can track what you put in back to you? And the answer to that is blockchain. And so
I'm seeing web companies out there be able to do this, and they do it with like a reward system where they're creating their own cryptocurrency, if you would, and the content that you're creating, you're rewarded in their coin, and then you can take that coin and either buy products that they're selling or cash it out to your wallet, and then make, it's pennies, but enough pennies adds up.
Yeah. So now,
especially if you're a content producer.
Yeah. So you're talking about the cryptocurrency side, right? So I kind of look at this because all these terms get mixed up with people.
They do.
So I think it's important to keep them all straight. So I always start out with the term blockchain, right? And the next thing is, because when we got blockchain, then we can have things like cryptocurrencies. And when I say cryptocurrencies, that's things like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Cardano and 1,000 others, right? And even NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And you hear people, and we can talk about those individually, but you start with the technology, blockchain, a lot of uses. I know a technology company that provides blockchain for credit unions and community banks, right? For the security. And you know what the key is to this whole concept of blockchain in finance and other areas? Community. It's all community based, right? As a matter of fact, why do people accept cryptocurrencies? Because they know other people will accept cryptocurrencies, right? So let's go back. Blockchain starts there. Then you got the cryptocurrency concept, a lot of different types of cryptocurrency. And when this becomes, more and more people kind of understand this, then you go to a crypto marketplace. That's what you were talking about, like a marketplace, right? And then you go to the crypto economy, and then you go to the crypto ecosystem. And so it's a movement. Now, also, you're going to see in the real estate transaction, we all know this, commissions are being compressed. And one of the reasons commissions are being compressed is all of the hands that are required from pre-qualifying or before farm prospecting, you get from there to close to loan funded to loan sold in the secondary market to pay off, lots of people involved.
Lots of people.
And so a lot of those things don't need to have people involved.
Mm-hmm. And
so if you could, by technology, replace those people, then there are going to be fewer of those people in the business. And it's already coming on the mortgage side. And so I tell people, here's what you have to do. You have to look at all the things that technology can do that you can't do. And all of the things that you can do that technology can do. Mm-hmm. And then you figure out what you can do that technology can't do.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the way you stay ahead of the curve. And realtors should be looking at this. And so, get back to how is it going to affect the future? Multiple listing services. And I think, again, we'll get to the point where you put in your listing data, and that data is going to be sold in a number of different places, different aspects of it. That's going to monetize that for the MLS. And then the people who put that data in the first place should be paid for that. Geez, if that happened, I'd go out in my neighborhood and take all kinds of pictures. You walk around your neighborhood, all kinds of things that other people don't know. I take a walk every day and I see where the gas and electric guys are marking the street. Well, I know what street they're marking. I know they're going to be digging. If I've got an online community, I can go back and talk to people and I become the neighborhood expert, kind of like my town, right? I become the neighborhood expert. And so we're back to being able to, there's a reason for me to collect the content about my neighborhood. Hey, I want to take a picture of a house being remodeled today. So 10 years from now, I can go back to the new owner and say, would you like, or somebody who's interested in listing. Mm-hmm. And you say, I'm really an expert in this. Let me show you what this house looked like 10 years ago. Yeah. Let me show, right? And so it's just a different way to use it. And if you can put it into blockchain technology where, and this is not the right word, where it can be tagged to you. And then if it's kind of like the old BMI ASCAP music, whenever the record is played, all these different people that get paid from it. So a big aspect of blockchain and of technology today and data is ownership. Mm-hmm. Who owns it? So kind of interesting. Ownership, when we talk about real estate, is a bundle of rights, things you can do with it. Well, that's the same thing with data. And so when you put data like, well, how does it work on Google? Well, you just let them use all your data.
Right.
Well, how does it work with Facebook? Well, pretty much you let them use all your data. Well, soon people will start to realize the value of the data, particularly when it can all be tracked to them and there's a monetary possibility down the road. So that's another way the real estate industry is going to change in the future. Now take it down to the transaction level. We talked about people being reduced, the number of people, and then we can talk about what skill sets are required for real estate agents. I think one is understanding a little bit about how the transaction will flow in an era of blockchain. Mm-hmm. And I think agents ought to know other things as well as the technology. So now, this, we're going to see fractionalization of real estate in a way we've never seen. Well, we've always had that. Yeah, we've always had that. Right? Not always, but we've had fractionalization interests in real estate for a long time. I was a real estate syndicator for a while, and I would bring investors in and we'd go out and buy a building, and this is fractional ownership, right? And now we'd be a partnership. 3 of us, 4 of us get together, buy a property, fund it, fractional ownership. But now, because of blockchain, and you can do a zillion transactions in no time. Yeah. All of a sudden, you have a new way to create fractional ownership. And so there are companies out there doing it right now, and it makes sense. And it makes sense for a realtor to know about this because consumers are going to know about it. And some buyer or seller might say to you, what do you know about this company? And if you know nothing, I
have a meeting,
right? You want to know about these companies.
I have a meeting next week with the team from, I'll botch the name, but it's like Hover or Hoover, HOVR or something like that. And that's exactly what they do is fractional ownership. You can invest $100 in a property in San Juan if you want, right? And then you get your little authenticated piece and you get your whatever that little return is or as it grows. And you can do that in multiple properties. And I was turned on to that from a friend of mine in Connecticut who is giving up 20% of his property to be fractionalized. I don't know if this falls under the tokenized world, but he's going to be able to give up a percentage of his property and earn money from that. right? And it's, I don't exactly know how it works at this point. I'm interviewing with the company. I'll know more about it when I talk to them next week. But what you're talking about is happening, and it is possible, and it's happening on.
And it's
You know,
possible
we're going to
to a
start
degree,
seeing more of it.
well, to a degree that it's never been possible before.
Which
right?
the scary part about that is the laws don't even exist,
That's
and the
always
laws got to catch up.
Well,
because
that's always
there's
the
some
way it
weird
is.
things.
That's the way it was with the internet. It took,
Mhm.
that's the way it was with the World Wide Web. It took the departments of real estate a while to figure out, right? And so, no, you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, I think people who learn this early are going to have an advantage over people who don't. Remember Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm, the book, great marketing book, and he shows the innovators, the early adopters, and then the chasm, and then the early majority, late majority laggards. A great book, right? Crossing the Chasm. And what happened, where you want to be is you want to be on the left side of the bell curve. You want to be an innovator or an early adopter. Now, you don't want to do it too early, but that's on the side you want to be. And that's a differentiator, being somebody who's on that side. So as we talk about blockchain, as we talk about cryptocurrencies that at some point might be used in real estate transactions, as we talk about fractionalized ownership, this is great because on the negative side, what we hear today is first-time home buyers are priced out of the market. Housing affordability is a terrible thing. The millennials aren't able to, in many cases, to buy properties. Too much down payment, got big competition from Wall Street and other entities. So time ownership is like out of the question for a lot of people. But what if you could buy individual pieces in real estate, tokens, right? Which is basically a report, a ledger. And so you can, Johnny Mo, I want to buy your bedroom, not some piece. And say, I need a little money. I think I'll sell 20 square feet of this property. And so if somebody puts it in enough properties, when those properties are sold, those are equity events, and they might be able to accumulate enough money there to go out and put a down payment and buy a house. See, new ways to look at buying, and again, in a secure way, with transactions taking place quickly at low cost, removing people. And so that's why it's so important for, as a real estate professional, right, to think about how can I utilize and apply. Well, first I got to learn about it a little bit. And I know you're going to have a series of these programs to teach people about it. And the hard part is getting ahead of yourself, right? All of us. Now we're going to talk about NFTs, right? Non-fungible tokens. What's an NFT? Well, again, it's related to blockchain, and they're already, it's something that's not really there, but it is. And the first place I looked was the sports world. And I used to buy baseball cards when I was a kid. Then I realized these professional athletes were creating, but rather than use them, I'll use Snow White. And so there's a movie, Snow White. What if you could take one frame out of Snow White and make 100 of them as a non-fungible token and then sell it? Well, you know what will happen in time? That people get into this, just like trading, and that creates a market. So there's a secondary value. And as the market grows, that's also going to happen in these fractionalized pieces of real estate. The market will grow. As that market grows, that more liquidity adds a little bit to the value. And so now it's like having a Mickey Mantle baseball card. They only made that was my baseball hero, right? They only had so many.
With public proof of ownership.
Yeah, documented. Right? And they're not going to make 101, they're going to make 100. And so as people get into whatever, so look at the sports, the athletes, and right? Even Paris Hilton, I saw, is doing non-fungible tokens. So if you got an audience, and I'm not saying realtors should do this, I'm saying you should be aware of what they are. They'll become mainstream. And then people say, well, who would buy that? Nobody would buy that. You say, well, you're maybe a different generation than you. So generational marketing is another thing that people should start to pay attention to. Well, how about virtual real estate? Well, people, right, they'll pay money to be in this virtual real estate. And I'm thinking, well, I know if people play games and go into a virtual space, I might want to go there too, because how do you get business in real estate? Contact with people. And so if people are hanging out inside some kind of virtual bar and virtual world, that's a place I could prospect. Yeah. Not that I just place like people are going there. Their eyeballs are there. Right now, what's the stuff? So you hear this, people are spending $100,000 to buy a piece of virtual real estate. What's to stop somebody else from creating a new virtual world and a new virtual world? And then we hear about being able to holograms. And if you haven't seen the movie or the clip Simone, with like a B movie with Al Pacino, though, where he creates an image of a movie star that becomes, because he's tired of movie stars asking for all, so he doesn't want to deal with them, right? So he creates an image of one, and then it's so realistic that the public, she becomes a big star, and he can't control it anymore, and everybody wants to meet her and see her. So he figures out, the only way to do, I gotta kill her. And it's a program, right? It's not real. But like, then he does that, and then they arrest him for murder, right? And it's like, without the body. So think about, and just watch that clip, because it'll give you some insight into, do you always need a human being? And can there really be something that satisfies the needs of another human being that's not a human being? And so as I think about that, then there's certain things in the real estate transaction that I don't need to learn about, because I'm not going to be doing it, or I don't need to be good at it. And so we get back to this idea of what skill sets are going to be required for people to be successful in the selling of real estate in the future. And whatever it is, you got to get ahead of the curve. And so I always say there's this period of time between the discovery of something and then everybody knowing about it. So there's this period of time, something discovered, everybody knows about it. That distance, that period of time between discovery and mass awareness is called lag. And lag is where opportunity resides. And the closer you are to discovery, typically, the easier it is to find the opportunity. And the later you are, the more difficult it is to find the opportunity. So we're at a point here. And I've been looking at technology in the real estate industry since the early 90s. I was instrumental on the first Realtor.com team. I have nothing to do with what it is now and what it turned into. That's people whatever they think. But I was active in that, in the creation of the Realtors Information Network, which was the father or mother of Realtor.com. I created the ePro course, which is the online technology certification program for the National Association of Realtors. I connected or created the Web 2.0 course for NAR. I was an instrument. We sold our company domains and email and websites to realtors in the 90s. And when I looked at the internet in the 90s, we called it a miracle. It was a miracle to us that people could get, and it was text-based, but it was a miracle that that's what we thought. The internet was a miracle, but we could see it was going to be big. And we were right. And then we saw the need for online education, and we fought hard to get the contract with the National Association of Realtors, and we got it. And then we created so we were right about that. And then I became a CEO of a company in Canada called Point Two. And we were the first people into real estate syndication from MLSs, because I got this idea that distribution trumps destination. That at that time, rather than try to pick where you put it, unless you were an expert, you couldn't pick it right. So it was easier to put it everywhere. If you put it everywhere, then you got a chance of hitting one of them that's a good one, right? So our company would take in MLS data, normalize it, and distribute it to companies that wanted to use it for their business models. We created the first data contract. Well, the point is, when I look at blockchain and Web 3.0, it's no different to me than what the internet was, and what the World Wide Web was, and what online learning was, and what the distribution of data was and is. This is just as big, and it's happening, right? It's not gonna happen. It's happening.
It's happening. So an important thing to understand about that too, and what the future looks like. You're the one who turned me on to this in 2020 when ICE bought
Intercontinental Exchange.
Thank you. Bought Sallie Mae for $11 billion. Right? $11 billion. And what they said is we can close transactions in 2 weeks versus 6 for 2,500 versus 8,000. So there's going to be a cost savings because it's going to be done quicker. The deeds are in the process of being put online many places. The tax cards are in the process. I mean, a lot of this stuff is already online. It's just not on the blockchain. So once
part of,
these things are on the blockchain, it opens it up to be able to do a title search like that, right?
yeah, and secure, and you still need title, and yeah, you still need insurance probably just in
Sure.
case there's a breakdown, but it doesn't have to be, right? So what happens is more transparency minimizes risk for insurers.
Mhm.
More transparency minimizes risk for people who buy mortgages and buy loans. Being at the first point of contact is valuable, and that's why ICE, you know, they also purchased MERS and a couple other companies.
Wow.
So that they can, and right now, I heard the other day that it's like, and it's all about pre-qualifying the property and pre-qualifying the buyer. And why would the buyer get pre-qualified? Because it's secure. And you can actually have all your data secured in the vault, and then a lender can come up and bid on portions of that. And then you can pick the vendor that you want, and you get the best deal. And so you create a mortgage marketplace. And I think Rocket Mortgage has done some of this, but it's going to become, you know, more widely accepted by, you know, the whole thing. It takes adoption, right? It's going to take some time, but again, if you can get ahead of the curve, that's all the value to you. It becomes a differentiator. You know, real estate, I used to say real estate's a Me Too business. Most people that sell real estate all do the same thing. People that get really up in arms about that, I say, okay, name all the different things that you do from your competition, really. And they're hard pressed to do that. So Seth Godin said, be different or charge less.
Be different and charge less.
Right? Yeah, if you do everything everybody else says, then they can only differentiate. So there are things today. There's knowledge you can have of the real estate market. There's knowledge of the methods in which we're going to transfer property and the way property is already being transferred. I saw this individual podcast not too long ago. They're already talking about, you're right, like they can do the loan qualification in a week, and they can do the close in 2 weeks. And the goal is like to do the application process in 1 second and do the loan in 10 minutes. So imagine now how liquid, how liquid is real estate now if there are marketplaces? And what if there are marketplaces and I want to do a 1031 exchange? So there's an investment marketplace. I mean, and people are in the marketplace together. And so many things can happen as these markets are created, but they can't be created on the current platform efficiently. As a matter of fact, look at Facebook. It's internal. We used to call those intranets, right? It's a closed network. And you look at LinkedIn, it's a closed network. So another thing that we're going to look at in the future is interoperability, right? As people learn more about data and the value of data and how it can be marked to them and how it can be utilized and what the value is going to be, that's important for people's future. And if this is your real estate, your business, this is a big piece that allows you to get in front of people. And again, the future is already here. These things are already taking place.
And you know what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years, and we learned this during COVID, was there was a big emergence of virtual showings, right? Where people were going and they were taking their camera, filming the whole thing. We're very close to the technology. The technology exists. It exists. It just hasn't been created for this yet. And that's when you put the Oculus on and you can walk through that house. You can see everything in that house, how it flows and everything else. So imagine you're sitting in Illinois somewhere and you're moving to Florida, and you can put on the Oculus and you'll be able to walk through that house. You'll be able to walk. What does outside look like? There's my neighbors. It sounds absolutely crazy, but we've already done it it's already happening in video games. And I want this to be like it's a video game. My nephew showed me one the other day where a guy's walking through a property, looking around the corners and everything else like that. We're very close to it. And we were doing it during the COVID times. We still do it. We walk through with FaceTime and we make a video about it, or we do Matterport or whatever it is. It's just tying those technologies together.
So here's the deal. It's already here in a much bigger way. And the reason I know that is the technologies are developed typically for defense. And it takes them 10 to 15 years before they are commercialized. Right. So I know, and I had my own experience because I served in the Navy, and the first ship was a brand new ship. And it was like most ships at the time was steam driven. You know, the ships are steam driven, and big Navy ships then, like 20, 50 years ago. So then the second ship I was on It was driven by gas turbines, big, long, 500-foot ship, which it took steam to run. All of a sudden, I get off that ship, I get on the ship, and it's got LM 2500 gas turbine engines, the same engines that are on a DC-10. And those engines turn the turbines, and it turns the propeller. And it was like a complete shift in power. And it didn't happen in 5 years, right? It happened I was studying about it in college, and I knew what the concept was going to be. But when I got on board the first ship, it was the old. And when I got on the new one, it was this new technology. And so I think back to the point is the technologies you talk about that no one knows about, they're here, and they're even deeper than we think.
Sure. Yep. Exactly. And that's real. So the way we show property, the way the consumer consumes the property and everything else like that is changing. It will change. It will become more, whatever we want to call it, virtual, if you would. There's going to be more virtual tools that are coming out. And as websites and developers become smarter with AI and all these other projects as well, you're going to see a different user experience, a different consumer experience. I'm going to throw out the Z word, and a lot of people don't like Zillow, but Zillow, the reason Zillow won was because they met the consumer where the consumer was at. They wanted anonymous information and not to be hassled. You can just go there, type in where your area, boom, there's information. You can search the sale history, see the neighbors and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, you go to an agent site and they're like, oh, you must register, right? Where Zillow was just like, well, we're going to follow you around now, and you just let us know when you're ready. I want to touch on NFTs for a minute, because it is such a wild, wild west. And you see my son's friend, who's my son's age, 19, who has slept at my house, and I've fed this kid many times. He made $1.5 million off of NFTs over the last 2 years, and he didn't know anything about them 2 years ago, but he's learned about them. And so you got to learn about them. NFTs, I just want to dispel the myth that it's not just a picture. The picture, the music, the video, whatever the NFT is just so there is ownership of something. And that ownership of something gives you unique access. Let's take the drunk monkeys. They are the most famous ones out there right now. If you have the blue drunk monkey, you're able and invited to these parties that are on mega yachts with millionaires that you get to network with. That NFT can be validated, right, of ownership. So you have to show your validation or whatever, and it's validated through different wallets and such.
So what makes it validated? So how do people know? Blockchain,
right? It's in a wallet that you can validate that through blockchain that exists. So now you can get on. So the house down in Florida that made headlines last month when Proppy listed it, it's an LLC that owns the home. And this is where this is where the man's going to come perk their ears up real quick.
Security.
The NFT, you have the NFT. Whoever has the NFT is the owner of the LLC, and that's all done through lawyers. This manager or owner is moved out. This member, manager, owner, however it's set up, is moved in. The LLC owns the property. There was never a property transfer, just an LLC transfer. So the question I have, which I don't think the laws exist around this because it never existed before, is was that a property transfer or not? And is a transfer tax due? Right? So
yeah, whether it might and might not be. But there's another question that to me is important, and that is if that LLC is put together, who's in charge of it? And initially, those tokens have to be issued, so someone has to receive the money for it. And so then the question from the government's perspective is it a security? Because anytime money is taken as an investment and the person doesn't have control over it, then the government gets involved because they classify it as a security. So that's watch for that. Watch for whether or not they declare it a security. So as I looked at it, and you're absolutely right, these things will happen, but then the government can do things nobody expects, right? Is it a security, right? So they'll get around this. They'll figure out how to do it.
Yeah. So we got about 5 minutes left. So we're supposed to be 45 minutes or so. So I guess that's 3 + 5 is 8 minutes left. What do you want to talk about? I know that the consumer experience is going to change through virtual realities and those types of things. I mean, Matterport was, state of the art when it came out, right? Virtual tours where you were able to take pictures and stitch them together. You see the progression, because back in 2000, this stuff didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
22 years ago, this stuff didn't exist.
I got the original iPhone in my drawer. Right? I mean, that was like 2008. Before 2008, there wasn't an iPhone. And look at it's everybody's life.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's
today,
life.
Right? But there wasn't. So here's one of my favorite pieces, and it has to do with the consumer. And that is the driving consumer forces. And I think if you look at these driving consumer forces and you put them to work in your business, you're gonna increase your business, you're gonna make more money, you're gonna save more time, everything will be better. So here they are. Speed. If you can do things for people quicker, people will pay extra even for things that are done faster. Convenience is the second one. And 7-Eleven or whatever, they charge more, convenience stores. And so people will pay more for convenience. And so what are consumers looking for? Speed and convenience. And they also want choice, right? Choice. And so look at real estate today. So you look at real estate today, and there are many different choices for people. And there are going to be even more choices in the future. So speed, convenience, choice. They want value added. Consumers want, so what does that mean? They want people to give them more than they pay for. And we know realtors do this all the time, right? You do things that like completely not in your job description, but you do it. And that's classified as value added. Speed, convenience, choice, value added. People want quality. That's why they go to Nordstrom's. They want service. They want information. Mm-hmm. And so those are what consumers are looking for. And if you can integrate those into your business using technologies or using your human skills, one of your biggest human skills is being able to determine nuance. And technologies, at least without appropriate AI, they have a hard time just determining nuance. So consumer demand, speed, convenience, choice, value added, quality, service, and discounts. This one I left out, and information. So if I hate discount, well, I'm not telling you have to discount. I'm just telling you consumers like discounts. Do you like discounts? Yeah, I like it. When I go get pizza, I give them the $5 coupon. I save the money, right? So people want discounts. If you don't give them the discounts, that's okay. Give them more speed, give them more convenience, give them more choice, right? So it doesn't mean you have to discount. It means you're going to give people something else. You're going to make them aware of it. And technology is a big piece of that.
So the company that my friend Justin turned me on to that he's looking at is RHOVE.com. Rove, I guess I would say it, Rove. And you can go to their website, take a look. We get nothing for this. Hopefully we'll be interviewing them in end of, probably at this point, April, mid-April, to listen to what they do and how they're taking advantage. And I don't mean take advantage in a negative sense, taking advantage of the opportunity that exists to be able to do this, as do you be able to invest $500 in a property here and here and here. And how fun would that be to be able to say, I own properties all around the country. You don't own the property, but you have ownership in the properties around the country. And it's a new way to invest your money other than the traditional markets, right? 401ks, those types of things, which are still tried and true investments, right? I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying this is a new opportunity to be able to put some money into a different area through tokenization of real estate, which is happening. RHOVE.com is one of the companies that are doing it. Proppy is a company that's doing it through NFTs, right? So I'm sure they did their homework. I'm sure before you launch a company like this, you probably have a $250,000 legal bill to make sure that you're doing everything properly and everything like that. But again, the laws aren't there, so who knows where that will go. But these things are happening. It's not going to happen. They are happening. And we're going to continue to move towards that virtual experience. We're going to move towards that fast experience. We're going to move towards that diversified experience that we don't even know what it looks like because it doesn't really exist. So you have to look at it now and say, where are we going? And, hopefully we'll get there. If you shoot to the moon, you miss it. You end up in the stars, right? You're still in outer space.
When my dad, what was it? A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, Bing Crosby and Rhonda Fleming, an old movie, and there's a song in it there's nothing to be ashamed of if you stub your toe on the moon.
Mm.
Right. And so it's high goals, right? Now, here's another piece that blockchain is going to make possible, and other things, right, that are going to make this possible happening right now. And I think realtors need to be very much aware of this, and then know how blockchain technologies are going to help them solve the issues of this and the issues of today. And that's land use policy in the United States is on the verge of changing dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be moving towards more walkable communities. More data is going to be collected. The government's moving in that direction for a number of reasons. We've outgrown our capabilities to service the way that we administer our towns and cities. And so we've used this, just keep building out further, build the roads, more cars. And so, but now we know we walk outside and the freeways are cluttered because they can't keep them up, right? They got weeds. You walk down the street, you got homeless people can't afford to buy properties. And so it's time to say, the government's decided it's time to say, wait a minute. Plus they've surveyed and they find the millennials, like 65% of them want walkable communities. So you're going to see a lot of people proving. And how are they going to prove it? Data. And how is that data going to get crunched, or in what? It's going to be in a blockchain. And what's going to help decisions or the solutions arrive, and that is artificial intelligence. And so all of this stuff is part of the future. It relates directly to real estate, and we can take almost any one of those subjects and talk for 45 minutes on each one of them, right? And I know you're going to bring other people in to talk about these different things. And again, what we're trying to do today is set that foundation. Understand that there are these three phases, right? The first phase of the internet included the web. The second phase, which was Web 2.0, or blogging, community creation. And the third one that you need to really be looking at is they call it Web 3.0. The underlying foundation is blockchain, and it's going to make possible all these things we've been talking about. Cryptocurrency, non-fungible tokens, that's a tokenization, real property, chain of title, right? All in the blockchain.
They're talking about digital dollar down in DC right now, right? Digital currency.
That's because they want control.
Federal Reserve digital currency.
Well, that's a threat to any government. It's having money somewhere. That's a threat to the government. So that's another thing that we got to look at as we're looking at all this, and that's how will the government get involved in regulation? And it's more the currency aspect. Because the technology itself is can be utilized for many different things. I said banks use it, right? Because they want to be more secure. Credit card companies use it. And the new MLSs, the MLSs of the future will use it. The government's not so much concerned with that as they are concerned with money and it being used, right? Because then they have a problem with it. So yes, that's right. Just the other day, I saw that too. And in my mind, I can see why.
Sure.
Right? And it makes sense. I see why people want cryptocurrencies, because they like Bitcoin. It's got a special purpose, right? It can never be beyond a certain number. So supposedly it's a hedge against inflation, which, by the way, is here in a lot of it, and there's going to be a lot more, and which is going to drive the price of properties up. And so real estate's still a good investment in most places. It's not a bubble. And we're going to look back on this in 10 years, and people won't even recognize the technologies used in the transaction.
Yeah. So there are a couple questions here. Let me answer these quickly if we can. Brian says, or maybe ownership is an LLC and 20% ownership reflected there. Still so new to be determined. Saul said something earlier, and a friend of mine who did some real smart stuff in the Air Force, who mentors me, said the same thing to validate what Saul said. He said the technology that we're seeing, they were seeing 20 years ago, right? They've been working on for a long time. So it might be new to you, but it's not new, right? This stuff is not new. There's people working in labs 10 years ago on this stuff, right?
And let me just say, there might be another piece you're looking at, and that is the distribution of the ownership within the LLC. And the percentages within the LLC, and could I buy 20%? Yeah, who knows? You're right. But if that's the question, right, a percentage, and it might be that certain percentages in certain areas might qualify it as a security or not as a security, might require subdivided lands act kind of thing. Don't know that yet.
Yeah. He also asked, is there any source of information or education on this topic? It is vast, right? There's a lot. And I follow this guy, Coach JV or Coach VJ or something like that. He's on all the channels, TikToks and Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. And he does an excellent job, in my opinion, of explaining a lot of this stuff. A lot of it is just really sitting down and looking at it, watching it, reading the white papers, which is you gotta be a special person to enjoy that stuff, right? The white papers, they'll explain exactly the project. But for me, when I'm looking at any of this in the blockchain crypto world, I'm looking at what the project is about and what's the functionality, because that's going to determine whether I'm even interested or not, right?
So I'll tell you the one I love, this source, and I think it's 99 Bitcoin, and it is on a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and his videos are like 2 to 3 minutes. That's what I like. I like,
Quick.
quantum mechanics in 3 minutes, right? So that's, I look for the video. I like the short videos. So I like, what's a wallet? What's Bitcoin? What, right? Short videos, 99 Bitcoin. The guy's easy, and you'll understand a lot more about it. And again, the thing I like is like bite-sized pieces, right? I can watch 3 minutes. It's hard for me to watch 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour. I get people send me podcasts that are an hour. I go, I'll listen to it, but an hour is a long time. 3 minutes, I can do it.
Pieces.
99 Bitcoin.
Yeah. I do have a friend that has a university that they put together, but it costs money and everything else like that. You PM me, I'll send you a link. I'll make an introduction. I get nothing for it. I don't want nothing for it. But I would utilize all the free sources that I can first. 99 Bitcoin is a good one. I remember that one from last year. I was looking at that one. But yeah, just start doing some research. You'll come across somebody that you gel with and that you connect with, and you'll be able to tell quickly. Because these people will post their gains and they'll post everything else like that. You'll be able to tell quickly whether they're full of it or not. I follow this young kid. I don't even know if he's 21 years old. I think he's 20. Cryptomazing is his name, right? He's really good, really gets it on a high level, explains it well, moves fast, but explains it well. So, once you just start hanging out in the room and start listening, right? And understand that, like Saul said in the beginning, there's so many different ways. You got to understand that blockchain is the technology, the backbone that it runs. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin is the gold, Ethereum, a couple others are the backbones that are doing the transactions. Then things like ADA, XRP, those kind of things are the transactional piece that handles the transaction or the authentication of the transaction. And then there's other tokens that have utility to them, right? So you just start to look at these things, get on Coinbase, right? It's free to join Coinbase. They got a lot of basic education, and it's a cleansed environment, right? Meaning that it's a safe environment for you, because they're going to track money in, track money out. They're not going to let anything that's risky on their platforms. If it is, they're going to pull it off, right? So it's relatively cleansed. You start getting out there into some exchanges like Bitmart or KuCoin and these other things, you better know what you're doing and have a friend that does, because you got to move money from one wallet to another. There's gas fees. And then are you in compliance with our own government and these types of things, right? So start like a novice, get on KuCoin, take some of the classes. They'll give you free crypto. There's papers in there. You can read about each token, each currency, what they do and stuff like that, and start to understand, okay, blockchain, there's not much you need to know about blockchain. There's not, right? There's just really not, unless you're going to work in that world or be a miner, right? And that's a whole nother world. And then you got your currencies, and then you have your NFTs and your tokenizations and those types of things. So once you're able to start to segment those out and learn about each individual one, then as a novice, because it's confusing. I'm studying this stuff and I'm still lost, right? I'm just like, okay, I finally got the basics down and the understanding of it now. But there's donor advised funds that are coming out. Cryptocurrency, donor advised funds. There's everything that you can imagine is coming out in this whole crypto blockchain world.
So don't be overwhelmed by it.
Don't be.
Because you don't need to know everything about it. It's like right now, you probably couldn't tell me how the internet works, and you use it every day. You probably couldn't tell me how the World Wide Web, but you know how to use it.
I can tell you.
Right. And so you'll learn, and it gets it's layered. That's why today we tried to lay these layers out, because people get confused because there's so many layers. So don't worry about it. And you don't have to do it all at once. And Johnny Mo talks about, yeah, he loves, and it's fun for me as well, because I'm learning new stuff. That doesn't mean you have to go do it in a short period of time. And if you're like my age, you might say, well, I just learn bits and pieces of it. I don't really want to go. And then you might find you get interested in it as you start to learn about it. So it sounds technical, and it is technical, but like so many things you use today that are technical, you don't have to understand how it works. How many of you drive a car and you don't know how it works, right? It's okay, just as long as it gets me from A to B.
Y'all got stocks and mutual funds and 401ks and IRAs, but you don't know how the trading happens on the floor, right? So yeah, same concept. Learn the basics, learn what you need as the consumer, and you'll learn more from there. Anyway. And
I think from a realtor's perspective, keep this in mind, that the data you collect on real estate has a value. Mm-hmm. And as you look at it going into a system like a multiple listing service, the advanced multiple listing services, a lot of them around the country, they're going to evolve to this. They're going to be put on the blockchain. You're going to be able to be compensated, and without RESPA violations, because I know that kind of work's already taken place. And so there's lots of things that are happening right now, and we say this, and it's absolutely true. The technology that you're going to be using in a couple of years has already been invented. It hasn't been commercialized yet.
Yeah, they're testing it right now. Right. So awesome, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. I always love listening to Saul, because just has a lot of knowledge and has done a lot of high level cool things. Right. And so don't be overwhelmed by it. And we're going to be doing this monthly, bringing in different people to talk about what's going on out there. And again, it's something, if when you listen to Proppy, when you listen to our Rove and stuff like that, it doesn't mean you need to learn everything about it, but you can have the conversation. You can start to read about it. You can take a look at their websites. You can read their testimony. You can start to follow the story of what they're doing.
And anyway, I'd say one more thing, and you mentioned it, Coinbase. Mm-hmm. You don't even have to buy anything, but if you decide, you can buy like $10 at a time, and you put like dollar cost average in. And Coinbase itself is traded on the stock exchange. So you talked about it being safe. It's actually jumped through the hoops, and you can buy it as a stock. Coinbase, the platform and the marketing of blockchain, of crypto value, right? And you're right. I do it every time I go in there. If there's something new, I'll go ahead and go through the tutorial, so I get 3 or 4 tokens. Yeah. Right. And they give it. And so you learn when you go through it. And so it's great. Doesn't cost anything, and great place to start. Coinbase.
Yeah, and you know what? I put $50 a week into Bitcoin, and $50 a week, nothing big. It goes there automatically. I don't even know that it's happening. It's no different than me taking somebody out to lunch at that price, right? Yeah, exactly. $50, bang. And you can start to build in diverse assets, right? Because I don't think they're going anywhere.
When we say Coinbase, it's a website, Coinbase.com.
Yeah, Coinbase.com. You can get the app on your phone. But I wouldn't have. That's a whole conversation for another day.
Conversation. I don't personally.
I don't put nothing on my phone if I can help it.
Yeah.
So anyways, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. We will see you back here again on the 25th. We're going to be here with Proppy talking about the NFT that they're selling as a home as an NFT down in Florida, Tampa, West Coast, somewhere in Florida. We're going to get the inside scoop directly from their chief revenue officer, and it's going to open the idea, the concept at you as a professional. It's your job to understand how to sell homes. And there's more than one ways to do it. And the future is going to give us many other ways to do it. So learn with us too, because we're learning at the same time. So on behalf of LabCoatAgents, Saul, thank you for being here. Everybody, thanks for being here. Peace out, everybody.
Take care.